Well, welcome everyone. My name is Bruce Maggott, and I am the Dean of the Golden Gate University Agino School of Business. And thank you for joining us for our Innovation in Practice Series event, NFT Art, the Future of the Market. We'd like to acknowledge our co-host for this event, Golden Gate University Law School's Blockchain Law for Social Good Center. And before we begin, just a little bit of housekeeping. We'll do some question and answers towards the end of the hour, and our technology team asks that you put all the questions into the Q&A chat. And now it's my honor to introduce Tyrone Ross, CEO and co-founder of Turnkey Labs Incorporated and founder of 401 Financial LLC. And Tyrone, excuse me, since my introduction has to be brief, I can't list all of your accolades, but I'll list a few. Recently named as Investopedia's Top 100 Financial Advisors, Think Advisors 2021 IA25, VIP's Pushing Advisors Forward, and among a host of other accolades and accomplishments, he was recently acknowledged as one of Barron's 10 People to Watch in Wealth Management in 2022. Well, thank you, Tyrone, for joining us. And I know I've got my pen and paper handy to take notes. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction, Bruce, and thank everyone for having me, Golden Gate and all of the folks that have attended here. I appreciate you guys taking some time. This is always a topic that is polarizing, if you will, but I think we all could agree, no matter how you feel about crypto assets, it is not going away. And I think one of the things that, for me, I'm now almost 8 years into this. My hope as I get into this is not necessarily to change your mind if you are a skeptic, or to double down on it if you are a crypto hippie like myself, but to basically open our minds about the possibility here. And I think if you look at the title of the talk, NFT and Art, I'll start off by saying right away that NFTs is something personally myself that I'm still warming up to. I love the possibilities of what they represent. And my RIA, my registered investment advisory firm that I'm launching in September, we're actually going to have NFTs for our clients to give them gated access to content that we'll create. So we'll get into all of that. And I think that is one of the unique use cases that is really cool here. That's part of that's the first housekeeping. The second thing is I want to make this interactive. I want to answer questions. I know a lot of time, especially when it comes to crypto, there's the ability for those of us that are the pom-pom cheerleaders, crypto hippies, like I say, to kind of get into a lot of Pollyanna, but not actually take time to answer questions. So this is hopefully going to be fully interactive. Feel free to stop me and ask questions. This is your time, not mine. I do this 24/7, 365. I never turn it off. And this is a joy and passion for me to interact with people and educate before you allocate, if you will. Last thing in terms of the housekeeping, I think it's really important that coming out of this, that the continued education and resources are provided and are available so folks to kind of go and learn more. I think you can't do this space or anything that's going on justice in an hour. I think it takes thousands of hours of researching and learning and asking questions and being wrong and challenging your thoughts and your theories and perspectives. And that's exactly what crypto does. And I think what I also hope is that folks are inspired to get into where I'm going to go next, of exploring why I think this is so important. So I'll start here. The reason why the crypto economy and crypto networks and blockchain and all of these things are so important to me is I grew up in a home that had to operate outside of the traditional financial system. And you only need to see your mother crying to find the next check cashing place, or scrambling to use money orders or anything like that, to not really understand the opportunity here. So in 2015, late 2014, 2015, when a friend of mine sent Bitcoin to my phone, I couldn't unsee that. I immediately needed to know how you were able to do that. As we all sit here right now, I see 80 of us on this call. There is still no real-time payment system in the United States of America. That's a travesty. For all the talk of the wealth gap, for all the talk of the underserved, for all the talk of bringing more people into the financial system, we don't have a real-time payment system in this country. Japan has had it since the 70s. Now, our government, in all of their sloth-like ways, saying that we would get fed now, the irony there, in 2023, not super hopeful that we will, but they're saying that we will, because you have to think about the ability to walk into a bank, deposit a check, and have that money available immediately. There's a company called Superfluid right now that allows employees to get paid in real time. Now imagine, again, what that means for the underserved in this country to do a day's work and receive a day's wages. These are some of the things that crypto should allow. And when you do your research and you look at why the current system is set up for folks to get paid twice a month, there's some really interesting things that you start to find out there. I encourage everybody to kind of do the work to look at that. So when you look at, for me, I look at this for folks who grew up like me, for the underserved. And I've been saying for a very long time that it's unfortunate that a lot of the carnival barking around crypto and a lot of the hype is around things that add no value to the world. Where this adds a lot of value to the world. And I think we are at the point now where that is becoming inarguable. But unfortunately, it's shrouded in a lot of nonsense. And I will be the first to say that. And that kind of leads me into getting into where we are right now. And I see a question just came through. What do you do with an NFT? So I'll get with that. So let me just start here by saying this. What we've seen with crypto prices and the crypto market getting completely decimated over the last couple of months was absolutely positively necessary. There was a lot of projects that were terrible. TikTok traders, COVID visors, as I call them, everyone was a trader. Everyone was making money. It needed to have a great washout. And there needed to be some realization that if there is going to be real utility here for people to use, we would have to get away from just pushing money from one side of the boat to the other and really build things that the everyday person, my parents, right, who just recently, I would say within the last 5 or 6 years, really started to use traditional banking. They've been together since they were teenagers. They're in their mid-60s. Fascinating stuff. Until folks like that find utility in this, until companies find ways to operate easily, until financial services companies can find a way to use this to transact and instant settlement and all these things cheaper, faster, none of it mattered. Before answering the question, I will also say is, for me personally, in the almost 8 years that I've been in the space, I haven't seen the sentiment as negative as I had seen it a couple of months ago. But also what was bubbling underneath was a very interesting wave of young talent coming into the space. Look no further than Paul Tudor Jones, who was on CNBC. And he said, man, all of these kids my kids are coming to the house and their friends are coming over. And they're not saying that they're going to Goldman and JP Morgan and BlackRock. They're going to all these crypto companies that I don't know about. So there's a transfer of talent, space and attention and developers that are really going into this space, as well as money, right? In the middle of that downturn, you saw A16Z raise the biggest fund ever, $4.5 billion. So money is pouring in here. Is that a sign that it's the next great thing since my mother's sweet potato pie? Absolutely not. But does it mean that folks see value here? And I want to stop and say this, because I know I see 86 of you now, probably 85 of you are smarter than myself. But one of the things to look at here is if you look at the people that have gotten in early into crypto, and I mean early, like 09, 2010, 11 early, these are the same people, one, because they had the money to speculate very early, but two, because they saw the internet. I'm not one to compare this to the internet. I think it's two totally different things. But I think as far as what's happening in crypto now in that community, you have to be in the know. That's where all the money has been made. And we have to broaden that. And those folks that saw the internet and participated in the internet was like, oh, this is the internet of money, TBD. But they saw it and they bet on it and they did well. And now they're funding a lot of the things that are going to come after. So with that, I definitely want to hop in here and take a few questions. So what do you do with an NFT? So there's a lot of things you can do with an NFT. Most folks are just buying them, right? An ugly monkey picture, and just holding on to that. I equate NFTs similar to ICOs in 2017, 2018, where it was hard to figure out what the next step was. But what an NFT does, right? Think of it this way. And the folks that are way out basically saying, imagine if my college degree was an NFT. And now I have control of that and I can confirm at any point, right, that I have this degree from this university. No one could duplicate it. No one could change it. That's way out. Or having the deed of your home or whatever as an NFT. That's where folks think this is going. The other part is 401financial.nft. So now to be able to have NFT domain name. So with that domain name, I can send you money or value similar to a .com or .io. Where we are is simply using that as a way to say, okay, well, here is the 401 Financial NFT. If you do not have that NFT, which is essentially like your driver's license, if you will, to get into this gated community that we have, you can't get access to some of our planning tools. You can't get access to some of the videos or recordings that we've done. So there's a lot of utility, potential utility for NFTs, but I think the main one right now is for folks to be able to identify themselves on chain in a way that gives them access to events. You said we have no real-time payment, but Japan has had for many years. We use Zelle to transfer real-time funds now. That's not true. So you can use Zelle to send money in real time now, but they make you pay extra to send it now. And the other part is if you go to the bank and deposit a check, that money does not settle real time. You had already have to have money in a bank account to be able to use Zelle to send money. And if you want to send it real time, they give you two choices. It could get there tomorrow, or you could pay 50 cents, $1, $1.50 or whatever, and the person will get it real time, right? Now you have bank-to-bank transfers, right? Which folks are sending money. If I send money, your bank talks to my bank through Zelle, sending money real time. But guess what? You already have to have money in a bank account that you deposited in order for me to send money to that account. So that's the hard part of getting money into the system for those that are underbanked or unbanked, if you will. That's the part where it gets a little difficult. I would have to have a bank account already to send you money in real time. For those that don't have a bank account, to be able to send money in real time, it's hard for them to do.
Hi, Tyrone.
So, yep.
Sorry, this is Shuit with TGU. I think some people want to backtrack and purely define what an NFT is and then move forward into how NFT art is something beneficial for us, and then move forward, how you were saying, to the deeds and how it could potentially turn into something more than that.
Yeah, for sure. Happy to do that. And I see that here, what an NFT is. So an NFT is defined as non-fungible token, right? So a lot really cool information tidbit here. NFTs actually originated on the Bitcoin blockchain, where now everything is done on the Ethereum blockchain, as they call them essentially colored coins. So what an NFT is, again, non-fungible, and I think we all understand what, fungibility is the ability just to pass things, and I recognize it's $5, you recognize it's $5, right? That fungibility, right? So the non-fungibility aspect is that this is just, again, a one of one. This is mine. I hold it. It's an identifier, again, if you will. So an NFT gives you an ability, right, to do a bunch of things because it's on Ethereum, which is essentially think of it as a smart contract computer or blockchain. You can code into the Ethereum blockchain what this NFT is for, what it represents, so on and so forth. Tidbit here that is very important. When you see, and there's a really good report on this that Galaxy Digital just put out around the IP concerns and the trademarking and copyright concerns around NFTs. When you own an NFT, again, the key there is that token. There's an address where that token is what you actually hold. That picture that token represents is a whole separate story. So that's essentially what an NFT is. It's digital art, if you will, and it's kind of taken off in that realm as far as art is concerned and what creators are doing of basically creating art, saying, all right, I have this picture. I'm going to have 10 of these. I'm going to make it an NFT and I'm going to distribute 10 of these to my fans, right? Or folks who support my work, right? So that's essentially what an NFT is. Non-fungible token is just digital representation of an item, right? A couple years ago, NBA Top Shots was very familiar, where LeBron would have a dunk and that dunk would be captured as a picture, right? And again, this is why folks just clown it. Like it's basically a JPEG, right? And that picture would be sold, right? And then if you paid a certain amount of Ethereum, which is the way to pay for NFTs, there are ways to pay just in straight USD now, you would own that picture, right? That's one of the use cases for what an NFT is. I see a question here. I get the benefits of crypto and blockchain, but what about the impacts to the environment of the high energy use? So that's a whole separate thing. I think the energy use have been completely debunked. I don't want to absorb time with that, but I will say this, and this is just my personal opinion. Anything that has a 99.9% uptime that has never been hacked, that provides financial services to 7 billion people globally, that has never had access to financial services before, is worth the energy. That's just my opinion. We spend more energy on things that are way less important. But to that point, I think there's a lot of studies now that have come out to show the real energy usage of the proof of work chains like a Bitcoin, which is basically miners taking all this energy to produce a Bitcoin. And there are a lot of folks that are looking at ways to, so there's a company now that just got funded to take the waste and the runoff from landfills and use that as energy sources for miners. So it has been a concern. There are a lot of green energy and folks that are trying to get behind it to make mining more clean and address the high energy usage. But I think even prior to that, I think an innovation like this that provides financial access to billions of people really needed to be studied and thoughtful about what that energy usage was for and ultimately the effects on the environment. So that is a great question. If I understand correctly, you have to own via copyright and token. So no, that is where it starts to get a little fishy. So in that report, basically what they were saying, if I hold that token, that doesn't necessarily give me copyright to the actual artwork. Case in point, 401 Financial has an NFT for clients. And part of that NFT is a picture of my face. The token gives you access to these events, but do you actually own the rights to the picture of my face? I think what's happening now, a lot of folks are realizing, whether it's OpenSea and a lot of these platforms that are allowing people to buy NFTs in the small print, because when folks are speculating and not really reading the finer print, they're not doing the work to what is it that I actually own? And as a financial advisor, I tell other financial advisors this, and just anyone, there's very few people that can make a really good, credible investment thesis as to why they own crypto or they're operating in crypto. So just to be clear, you have a token that gives you the right to that actual NFT, the ability to interact with it and do things on the blockchain with it. But there becomes an issue is, okay, well, who actually owns that picture of the monkey, right, dressed in Nike clothes, right, if it's a Nike one or Gucci or so on and so forth. And I think that's where a lot of the debate is coming in. If we create an NFT, an art for NFT, what's the way to put it out there? There's so many different ways. Thank you for the question. There's so many different ways to get it out there, but you would essentially use, and I don't want to highlight any different platforms here, but there's a lot of platforms that you can research now to make it very easy for you to turn your art into an NFT. You would essentially pick which blockchain you want to run that on, Polygon, Ethereum. You would pick how many of those you actually want to mint. You would set, basically all the rules and parameters around your NFT. And then they would help you mint that and do essentially, which is a drop, right? 10,000, 1,000, so on and so forth. And then there's places as well that'll help you create a secondary market for that. So I would suggest kind of doing some research on all the different platforms that you can use to do that. They do make it very easy, but I would just make sure, one, you talk to a good IP attorney and read the small print of these platforms, because they're also taking a very hefty sum from folks that are creators, which was part of the problem here, by the way, right? The whole pitch of NFTs was money back to the creator, money back to the creator. But the folks that are these centralized entities, again, are taking money from the creator. And the other thing was the artist would be able to make money in perpetuity every time that NFT is sold. Problem with that is you're kind of working on a buddy system then. It can't be written in the smart contract on the blockchain that Tyrone is going to get a piece of his 401 financial NFT getting sold. Every time it gets sold, he's going to receive a royalty. So these are all things that we're working through, that hype versus the promise versus the reality. Even if Bitcoin uses 100% renewables, it is still energy intensive. It should move to proof of stake. I'll just take that as an opinion. I disagree, but appreciate the comment. If I want to create my own token, what are the first steps? Token, which is, again, different from an NFT. If you do want to create your own token, it's kind of, again, fairly easy. You would pick a chain that you would want to run your token on. And I think this is a good way to say, right, if you look at Bitcoin, big B, the blockchain, little b, the actual token coin, and Ethereum, the blockchain, Ether, the token, right? So you have a blockchain and you have a token, which essentially represents the blockchain. So you would have to, go through that process of determining what your token would be called, ticker, how many you're going to mint, so on and so forth. You would pick a blockchain, and then you would kind of, go on from there. With that, there's been a lot of consternation now because the SEC is starting to look at folks that have just created tokens out of thin air and say, hey, are these things securities? So something to keep in mind, but it is fairly easy to start a token, which is why I believe now there's well over 3,000 crypto assets. 99% of which will probably go to zero because it is so easy to create, and you build narrative and hype around it. That's how some of these things start to get traction and how folks get hurt. Doesn't Elrond blockchain have true ownership since they transfer the NFT onto your wallet? I'm not sure I understand that question, but that's a very good point. And I think this is part of the issue here is, yes, I own, if you transfer the NFT to me and I hold the token, it's in my wallet. Again, not necessarily the token is mine, the actual representation of the NFT, but what is actually inside the NFT. So if Taylor Swift or Britney Spears or Justin Bieber releases an NFT with music inside of that or whatever it is, who is the true owner of that content? But that is a good point.
All right, Tyrone, I'm going to consolidate a couple of questions. A number of people are asking exactly how do you invest in an NFT, whether it's buying, selling, how much money-ish should they expect, if there even is an answer to that, and also what possibly is the easiest way to obtain or create one?
I think it kind of answered the easiest way to create one. There's a lot of really cool platforms out there that allow you to do that. Quick Google search will determine that. I definitely don't want to hype any platforms here. I definitely can't suggest investing in NFTs without knowing someone's personal financial situation and where you are in your life and your savings, and make sure you have all of your financial life in order. I also go on record as saying I don't even know if NFTs are good investments right now, right? And I say that as a registered investment advisor. I can't go that far. So I think that's a personal decision if you think that they are things to invest in. So can't really go into that, but I think if you do think that they are investable for you based on your age, time horizon, liquidity, goals, then there are a lot of things out there, Dune Analytics, Coin Metrics, and other platforms that allow you to get a really cool look into especially Dune, D-U-N-E Analytics. They give you a really cool look into the NFT market. And there was something else there that you mentioned as far as a question. Yeah, Dune Analytics, D-U-N Analytics. And this leads me to what I was talking about, where I kind of equate this to similar to the initial coin offering boom a couple years ago. I think right now what you're seeing is whether it's Tiffany just did a drop of an NFT that allowed you to get a digital chain that sold out. It was instant, right? And folks kind of, I forget what how much Ethereum you actually had to use to get in, but it dropped and it was gone in minutes. Is that a great investment? Hard to say, right? If folks really understand the NFT and the utility that it provides, but is there going to be a secondary market to then rid myself of that? Is the liquidity there, right? Which is another thing. Those of you that understand markets now, you need liquidity. You need a market to be created for folks to be able to say, hey, I want to buy, I want to sell. Okay, well, great. And then you need a market maker to say, okay, well, you want to buy, you want to sell at what? You want to sell at what price? You want to buy at what price? To kind of make markets, right? And the NFT markets right now aren't the most liquid. So all of these things go into consideration. We're considering if these are good things for investing. With that said, a case where I see is I am a struggling artist of any type. I'm a supremely gifted guitar artist, and I've been playing on the street for years. And there are folks that have supported me. I've given out CDs at some point. I've kind of done TikToks at some point now, and I have an Instagram page. But now I decide I'm going to create an NFT with my music. And then inside of that NFT, it'll go to, again, the 25 people that always come by where I play and give me 20 bucks. And then those folks get the NFT. And now all of a sudden, I become the best guitarist in the world. Those folks invested in me early, and there may be some upside for them where I become a major star. And now on a secondary market, I have a whole bunch of new fans that are eager to get my first piece of work. And that person that bought my NFT at $1 when I was playing on the street corner, now can send that to my newest, greatest fan for $3,000 because they discovered me 5 years later. So that's where I think the investment comes in, of just kind of betting on talent and works and creators very early in their process. Oh, I love this question. If I'm interested in beginning my financial career in the crypto space, what should my first career steps be? First thing is, all of the notable crypto hippies are on Twitter. So I would go lurk on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at TR401. All of the crypto hippies are there. So I would get on Twitter, soak up. Again, a lot of it is going to be dumpster juice. Some of it is going to be pragmatic and useful. So first thing. Second thing is, I would familiarize yourself with the traditional financial space, right? And read all of the doyens in that space, your Peter Lynch's, your Paul Tudor Jones, your Howard Marks, your Ray Dalio's, your Jim O'Shaughnessy's. Really get familiar with the history of finance and money and monetary and fiscal policy, because you can't go somewhere without knowing where you come from. And I think that's the biggest part of the crypto space right now. Yeah, it's a revolution against the old, but you have to know where you come from. You have to know where these things evolve from. You have to know the history of money and markets, and you know the way markets are run and the things that are required in order to understand that. And then the last thing I would do is just get punch drunk on Andreas Antonopoulos. His YouTube page is remarkable. No one on earth explains anything as crispy and clearly and concisely as Andreas Antonopoulos describes crypto. I would read voraciously. There's a book called Crypto Assets by Chris Berdinsky and Jack Tater that I always suggest that folks read. And just really listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of videos, ask questions. Great. Someone definitely got the spelling right, because I was not going to get that right. I appreciate you. So that's what I would do. But I think the most important part of that is step 2. Go back and understand traditional markets. Go back and understand debt. Go back and understand credit. Go back and understand interest rates, monetary fiscal policy. And I think that'll do you well. And also, again, if you have some technical acumen, starting to look at Rust and Solidity and all these different developer languages, because I think there's a huge need for that moving forward. You're welcome, Janice.
Quick note to jump off of that. There's another question regarding any podcasts that you recommend.
Oh man, so many. I guess I would have to start by suggesting mine. I have a podcast called On Purpose that you can find on Apple and Spotify, but I'm actually going into my list here. So Bloomberg Crypto has a really good podcast. I think it's like 15 minutes. It's called Crypto by Bloomberg, which is great. There is another called The Scoop, Frank Chaparro, and The Block is like a crypto media company, as is CoinDesk, which is another. My podcast is with CoinDesk. On the Brink with Castle Island, phenomenal. Every Friday to just kind of do a rundown. Patrick O'Shaughnessy's Invest Like the Best series, remarkable. The FinTech Blueprint, Lex Sokolin, the Defiant podcast, Web3 with A16Z, it's another good one. And the last is the Blockchain Insider, 11FS, Bespoke. For this to be globally accessible and equitable, there needs to be access to internet or telecommunications. We're looking at it from a first world perspective. Many countries do not have access. That is one of the things I pride myself on, is not looking at it from a first world perspective, especially based on how I grew up. So I definitely understand that. One of the co-founders of my company is from Nigeria, definitely understand some of the issues of folks not being able to be connected. So you make a very good point. The ability to have access to a phone is important. And I think when you look at emerging markets, what you're seeing in India, what you're seeing in various parts of Africa is phenomenal. When you see the work that a company called Goldfinch is doing to allow lending in emerging markets in Latin America and so on and so forth. One of the key things that they realize is, yes, getting folks access to a phone and telecommunication. That is a fantastic point. Thank you for bringing that up. Once you create an NFT of a piece of art that you don't own, the copyright, what will you do with that NFT? So hopefully you're not creating an NFT of a piece of work that you don't own. The whole point would be to create an NFT of work that you own, so you could monetize that piece of work. And again, I will send the link around so folks can read this paper that Galaxy just put out on some of the issues around this, the IP, the trademarking and copyrights. So the whole point is to own the actual content and then create the NFT to kind of benefit from that content. Now, if you're saying, if you have an NFT that you've bought from Gucci or Prada or Tiffany, it's probably best to read the small print. Like, who actually owns this digital, I don't know, ape with a Tiffany, bracelet on, is a whole nother story. But the actual control of that NFT that you have to be able to interact with Tiffany's, again, private events, or the next, a preview on the next diamond chain that they are releasing, is a whole separate, thing. If I create an NFT out of a branded product or a trademark product, what are the implications of that? It sounds like you're saying that hasn't been figured out yet. It has not, nor has the tax implications of this as well, right? Any CPA or financial advisor will tell you, buying and selling NFTs, like whether, the capital gains and everything else. So that is a very good point. And that is part of the problem here. And we're going to see issues around this. And I think that's what the Galaxy report is saying. If you do take the step that, again, the question before, I created NFT out of something that I found somewhere, someone else's stuff, and they go, wait a minute, that's mine. Well, you're like, well, no, it's my NFT. Well, the token of that NFT is yours, but that actual image, or me dunking that basketball, like, that's mine. So I think this is where we're going to get into an issue here, and that has yet to be figured out. And I think that's what the Galaxy piece was trying to illuminate. There's going to be some concerns here around who gets what in royalties and payments on that, and who actually owns it. So yeah, that's a really good question. So again, I think there's so many use cases now with NFTs and experiments going on. I think if folks are creating NFTs, it's a good idea to make sure that it's content that you say, okay, I trademarked, I've copyrighted this, I own it. Now I'm going to create an NFT around. That's what I would say to creators. Me personally, again, as a financial advisor and someone that, is worked with IP attorneys and all those different things. But what's happening now is they're just telling people, oh, create an NFT, right? It's the same thing as telling someone, oh, go start an LLC. Well, they don't know anything about business, right? So folks will learn the hard way, similar to signing a record contract. Oh, I'm signed to a label. Great. But what did you sign away? And what did they give you? And then what does it mean when that record is sold? How many pennies of that dollar do you get? So I think we're going to see that same thing here. What's old is new again, right? Where folks release these NFTs or own these NFTs, and when they try to gain value from that, it's not going to be what they thought. So there is going to be a lot of busy IP attorneys that are going to do very well over the next 5 to 10 years.
I see another question regarding security. How is the space regulated to ensure you're not receiving laundered or otherwise illegal funds? I think people are a little bit worried about that these days.
You tailed off at the end.
I'm sorry. To ensure that you're not receiving laundered or otherwise illegal funds, how is the space regulated?
So I'm not sure I understand the question, but I think if you just mean funds on a blockchain or just like NFTs or everything.
I think it's more towards blockchain, but because NFT is a subgroup of that, they're
right.
Worried. Yeah.
So there's been a recent, the OFAC has just come down on Tornado Cash, which is an entity or a group of developers that developed a way for folks to, again, transfer money and mix funds and things like that. Public blockchains, right? So you have public and private chains. A private chain is Johnson & Johnson is going to have a private blockchain where we are going to be able to track this Q-tip going from New Jersey to California and be able to track that in real time, when it gets there, how much, so on and so forth. A public blockchain is exactly that. You are getting undressed in front of the store window. Everyone can see what you're doing. So what you're seeing now is the government having the ability to see transactions that are considered illicit. right? And Tornado Cash was used by hackers and folks in North Korea. So that ability is there. What is happening now is if I use any of these platforms to transfer Bitcoin or any value over the blockchain, there are things out there that can kind of obfuscate what that wallet address or where those things are coming from. But again, the technology is also there to uncover who that is. So there is a way to find that out. As far as the regulation, I think, again, we're starting to see our government entities and regulators starting to push into that. There is regulation in the space, not what the government wants. I think the exchanges aren't regulated. That's coming. They've said that Bitcoin and Ethereum are not securities, that they are essentially considered commodities for right now. And then there's implications around that, right? Every time you spend Bitcoin, which is why Bitcoin is not good money in the United States of America, every time you spend it, it's taxable. It's not good money here, right? We have much better options. Bitcoin is money. So there's not the regulation that the regulatory bodies and entities want to see. There is some, but not all. So it's still a little bit of the wild, wild west, but some exchanges do have, like, just take for Gemini, for instance, right? They have the New York Department of Financial Services that oversees what they do. You have exchanges that are audited, some by the Big Four, where they're doing the proper things to make sure that there is some type of regulation. But as far as that one entity over the entire space that looks at blockchains and exchanges and determining what is what, that is in the works now. But that is a great question. What is your view on NFT technology such as Solana's Magic Eden, Engine, and Infinity? Great question. I'm warming up to Solana. I think Solana is doing some awesome things. I think Magic Eden, when it released, was incredibly successful. And I think you're starting to see the NFT push on Solana is growing immensely. Same thing with Engine. Infinity, haven't really dug into that too much, but I think one of the things here is gas fees. And for those that don't know, a gas fee, when you are transacting on the Ethereum blockchain, you basically pay a toll. I'm from New Jersey, right? I can appreciate a good toll road. So as you pass through that toll to transact, you have to pay a gas fee. So you pay that with ETH, the native token to that blockchain, if you will, right? So I will use my quarters to get to a toll booth, and I throw that quarter in, and it allows me to transact, if you will, and keep going on my way. And Solana is an ETH competitor, if you will, that will allow folks to transact cheaper. So I think you'll start to see folks, if they really want to mint NFTs and do some things in size, where Solana is going to absorb a lot of that. So that's a great question. Will you be providing advisory service to NFT collecting, or will your service be informational with them? So a little bit of both. If folks have NFTs, we'll be able to give them advice on that. We won't be suggesting clients buy NFTs, I can tell you that, and using them as an investment. I just think they're really cool tools to, hey, I am part of Tyrone's fan club, let me in. I think that part of it for us is really cool. But yes, we'll be providing a lot of education and resources around NFTs, and being very thoughtful in using them to find out what the real utility is for how advisors engage with clients, especially, again, you have 72 million millennials, you have 68 million Gen Z. That is a bonkers number. They're going to want a completely different experience with financial services than exists right now. So that's basically what we'll be. We'll kind of be like a conduit, if you will, kind of helping people understand the space. What are your thoughts on El Salvador's adoption of Bitcoin? I was on a very large Twitter Spaces the night that whole thing happened. I have mixed feelings on this. I think it was really cool to see. I think it was a little too early. I think there had to be a little bit more time spent educating folks on the technology and getting them access. So once it's full on adopted and the country goes all in, that those at the bottom rungs and those that are running businesses and everything have the ability to transact and benefit. As far as the country is concerned, right, I think you saw, you know, the debt being downgraded, and the bond that they were going to do. There was a lot of issues there. So I think the experimenting is great, but experimenting with an entire country and people's livelihoods, I think was a little ambitious. So my crypto hippie side goes, man, that's awesome. But you also have to think about so many people that were kind of like, I just really want dollars, right? But that is a really good question. So I'm mixed. I think we'll start to see more of that, but hopefully there's more time sitting with people and understanding what their true needs are so they get the help that they need, and see if blockchain is a solution for that. It's not the solution to everything, but if it is, it would be good to have that as a possibility. Since the majority of listeners might be new to blockchain and NFTs, can you go over possible ways people can get scammed and ways to protect yourself from these scams? So what's terrifying to me is what I've seen as far as scams usually comes from family and friends. And it's folks that have been scammed by an outside source that kind of infects their friends and family. So a couple things I think is important here. One, ask a lot of questions. Always ask a lot of questions. When I first came to crypto, I was a skeptic myself, right? Before my friend sent me Bitcoin to my phone, I was like, this is the stupidest thing ever. So you're telling me some mythical man in the sky created 21 million of this money somewhere, and you want me to think that's real? Okay, right? And I kept asking questions. And he was like, well, fine, just let me send you some. Okay, you send it to me. I'm not sending you anything to receive anything, which is the very important point here. Don't send anyone your money. Don't give them your email address. Don't give them anything. No one should be making promises to you to give you anything so you could learn about this, right? Or you having to give them anything for you to learn about this. It's all free. It's all out there. The education, the access. If you use Venmo, you can buy crypto on Venmo. You can buy it on Cash App. You can buy it on PayPal. You don't have to give people anything for them to give you crypto or anything like that. So don't give out any passwords. The other thing is know your passwords. 1Password is a really good tool. Know your passwords, lock everything down. If you get a random email from somewhere saying, hey, disregard that. And I think the last thing is, it's very important in crypto now, because again, the regulation is coming and it is so early. If you go to interact with any of these platforms, you have to read the fine print. I know it's easy to run to Fidelity and Schwab and all these places and just go, I'm just going to open an account, right? Because they're trusted entities that are regulated, been around forever. Crypto is still very early. Read the fine print. Again, ask questions. What does this cost? Right? And scamming is still going to happen. Scamming still happens in the stock market. Scams still happen on over the internet. Scam happens with everything. But it's so perverse right now because crypto is so young and they are banking on people's ignorance. So those are the things that I would do. Ask a lot of questions. Do a lot of research. Protect yourself. Don't send anything to anybody. And here's the other thing. Have someone that you know that knows this. I get questions all the time from family, friends, bus drivers, pilots, dentists, lawyers, everybody. Hey, Tyrone, I was at church or I was on a retreat and somebody told me about Mickey Mouse coin. Is that a real thing? No. Right? So I think there should be someone that you trust that you can kind of filter this information through. And even if you don't have that personally, I think there's enough of us in the space that have profiles where you could DM us or you can ask us on social media. And not only will it add a lot of value to you, it'll add a lot of value to folks that are followers and you know, kind of lurking and traveling along as well on this journey.
All right. Thank you, Tyrone. I believe we have about 3 more minutes before closing remarks. I would like for you to sort of sum up or what you think we should walk away with. If we've forgotten everything in this past hour, what should we walk away with?
First thing is non-fungible tokens, NFTs, essentially represents some type of identification / ownership to a piece of work or problem or person or event or community, very multi-purpose. They are essentially, again, a driver's license, if you will, throughout the crypto economy. That's the first thing. Second thing is for those that are creators, those that are artists, those that are singers, those that are entertainers, again, those that provide any type of service, it is an opportunity to provide an experience for the people that support you through, again, that identity as part of being, as being a part of this community that provides these benefits that, again, as the NFT creator, I can provide. So there is some utility there right now, this day, for creators. The rest of it still, there's some time to be figured out for all of the hype out there around NFTs. Will the NFT eventually, you know, will my nephews eventually get their college degree as an NFT? I don't know. I hope I'm around to see it, but we'll see. But for right now, the true utility is, again, to provide an experience or access to some type of ownership or identification to a selected group or things. And then lastly, I think anyone that is looking to learn about crypto, anyone who wants to get exposed to crypto, anyone that really wants to get involved with this, it takes a lot of time. Ask questions, again, educate before you allocate. Do not put $1 into this until you've read, you've asked questions, you listen to podcasts, you've read some more, you ask more questions. And then at that point, you look at your financial life, you make sure everything is secure, you make sure everything is straight, and you say, I've been staring at this $5 on my kitchen counter. I have nothing else to do with this. This $5, I don't need to buy a loaf of bread or anything else. And you want to try your hand at, hey, let me at least see how it works. Only then should you walk into this world. Because again, if you use that $5 and you buy crypto and you forget your password or something happens, that crypto is gone forever. There's no FDIC insurance. It's not covered. So it's very important to understand that. So if you're putting money into the crypto markets or NFTs or Bitcoin, anything here, if that's gone, and I'm saying this is, again, I'm not an expert. There's no crypto experts, but someone who's been in space 8 years, I've lost a lot of money in crypto with forgetting passwords and transferring things from my phone and everything else. It happens to, it's almost like your baptism. And that's a tough thing to swallow. So make sure that if you are doing this, you have researched, you've asked questions, you're being thoughtful. And if the money goes poof, be gone, that is not going to change your way of life. Grateful for the time. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for the wonderful questions. Thank you to Golden Gate staff and everyone for having me. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you, Tyrone. We're so appreciative. That is so much great information. My name's Sue Ann Hirschberg. I'm the Program Director of Marketing here at GGU. Before we close, we just want to do a couple of shout outs to our Dean, Bruce Magid, our team, Zenas, Irene, and Shawit, Dave Yeski for making the connection to Tyrone, and our colleagues at Alumni, Student Affairs, and IT. And a special thank you to Tyrone's AE, Amanda Campbell, who's just been like fabulous through this whole thing. So we just want to let you know before we close out today that we're going to be sending you a link to this recording. So there was so much information. There'll be a link and some other information that we can include in the email. It'll be coming out to you in a couple of weeks to all the attendees and all those who registered. Please look for our upcoming events this fall. And thank you again, Tyrone, and all the attendees and all your great questions. And have a great week. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.
Bye.